Hey everyone, and welcome to the Dice Tower. I'm Camilla Cleghorn. Today we're going to be taking a look at my top 100 games of all time, specifically numbers 81 through 90. It was funny, as I was kind of looking through the list in this chunk here, I realized that some of these games are my most played games, or at least some of them my most recommended games. Like if you tell me I really like real time, or I don't know real time very well, where do I start? I have a game in this chunk here to recommend. If you tell me you play with your kids all the time, or maybe they're getting a little bit more into strategy but still need some help, my recommendation is in here. So it was just really fun to kind of look, and I got really excited as I was looking through this chunk and excited to talk about these games. So let's do just that. Let's jump in. Here's my number 81 through 90. Number 90, Mechs vs. Minions. We are really starting off strong here with number 90 of Mechs vs. Minions. I kind of put off playing this game for a while because it has the programming in it. And I heard that that can be frustrating if you find yourself backed in a corner, or you've put yourself in a corner because of the program that you've set. And that was a little bit intimidating because I don't tend to like being frustrated in games. I know it's crazy, but I didn't find that to be the case. And so a couple things really make this stand out. One, it's an amazing production. The miniatures that come painted in it are so very well done. I hear factory painted miniatures and I kind of start to zone out. I'd almost rather gray plastic than factory painted miniatures most of the time. These are absolutely beautiful. And I really like the control that you have over your actual programming sequence. So you can play on a spot that you've already programmed before to kind of level that one up, or you can scrap it. So while you do find yourself sometimes backed into a corner a little bit, you have such control over that sequence that I think it really takes away from that frustration. You might have a round like that, but it's going to be a round like that. You know, you can come back from it. You don't spend half the game just pounding your head on a wall waiting for it to end. And I really like that. I think it's a good mix of being difficult, as well as having control over things you can do, and as well as, again, forcing that cooperation. So for me, number 90, Mechs vs. Minions. Number 89, Planted. Planted is such a balanced puzzle, and I really don't know how to explain it other than that and what I like about it. So you have this simultaneous selection of a card in your hand that you've drafted, and then the reveal in which you either play it into your tableau or you play it for a power. And so you have this tableau building, but also management, as you need to make sure that you're building your tableau up in order to have the scoring at the end of the game, but also managing that to maximize that scoring, making sure that you're feeding your plants and you're growing them. And it has drafting in it, which I absolutely love. So you have a little bit of planning ahead and kind of tension of holding your breath, hoping that one card comes back to you, but also just at the same time very calming. I never feel like you are, again, backed in a corner or that you have no options at all. There's always something to do, and always something good, beneficial that's good. You don't have a throwaway turn. And for that, you just feel very pleased as you're building out, again, your house of plants here and setting up these scoring opportunities for you. This is a great gateway game, or somebody that just wants a pleasing experience that's going to play quickly with light overhead of rules, but still feel like they have some decision making to do that matters. So my number 89, one of the most pleasing games on my list here, is Planted. Number 88, Aquatica. Sticking with this trend here of really pretty games, we have Aquatica. Aquatica is just that. I love the water and the way it mixes this underwater fantasy kind of themes into one. So I like the resource searching, is what I'm going to call it here. You have your hand of cards that you can play to do certain actions. And so you have this action hand management in which you're going out to get cards, which are then in turn going to get you the resources you need in order to score your cards. And I love that sequence of things. I love the flow and the arc of this game. I love that you know up front what you can do. You have this card, this hand of cards, and everybody has it. And it's how you go out and get the resources and then manage those resource cards you have and using the resources on the cards to be able to score the cards. And I love that kind of loop of the game. So it's very, very pleasing, very absolutely gorgeous to look at, but then also has a really good return loop as you set yourself up to be able to score. Because if you don't, you can go the whole game without scoring anything. You really have to time those cards right and make sure you have things in line to maximize those scoring opportunities. So for me, number 88, because of that resource searching and kind of loop of scoring, is Aquatica. Number 87, Rush MD. If you've never played a real-time game, then Rush MD is one that I typically recommend. If I like this idea, but I don't know if I can handle it, I kind of start with Rush MD. And the reason is I feel like it's a good one that you can play one round without the time just to understand the flow. Or if you have somebody new, they can just focus on one of the mini games. That being said, that's something I want to talk about is the mini games of this. I love that they have these mini games that are very simple, right? When you look at it without the time, it seems so simple. It's like, oh, of course, I got this, not going to be an issue. But then you start adding this time restraint to it, or you start adding the tweezers to it, so there's a little bit of dexterity to it, and it completely changes the game. So this has a really good balance of being stressful, but also being simple enough that you can pick it up. You can learn the rules. There's not really going to be a confusion on how to play this game. It's just a matter of managing that time. I also love that the real time is broken up into manageable pieces. You have time where it's on, and then you have time where it stops, and you're doing the cleaning up and the scoring and kind of resolving everything that you've done up to that point. In my mind, I kind of see it as it's the night crew that comes in, and they kind of restore order to the hospital here. And I really like that. I think that it's chaotic fun, and it is just a test of multitasking and planning ahead. You have that time to kind of plan, but can you multitask and shift on your feet as the games don't quite go as easy or as quick as you hoped? So Rush MD is one of my go-to recommendations, kind of the starter real-time game, and it's number 87. Number 86, Welcome to. Welcome to was my gateway into this roll and write genre, and now it's kind of become my go-to roll and write, or a very comfort item to me. So I love the tension that it brings, and again, that arc of the game, the way it builds throughout. I love at the beginning of the game, you have the whole neighborhood. You really do not care too much what comes out. Maybe you have a little bit in mind of the strategy that you're going to go through over the course of the game, but not really. You're still kind of flexible and malleable. But then as it goes through the game, and as you really need a certain number or a very small range of number, I can only take a 14 or a 15. And I know there's only one left in that deck because I've been counting because I need it so bad. That just brings such a tension and such a breath-holding moment every time you flip those cards over. And so I really like, again, the balance, the tension of this roll and write, still within a very simple gameplay. I also really like all the different expansions that have come out, so I can play throughout the different seasons. Do I need this? No, absolutely. But is it fun to collect Easter eggs during Easter and hang up Christmas lights during Christmas? Absolutely. And I'm always down for some zombie apocalypse as well. So I love just these little variations that have come out that don't really change the gameplay, but they add just a little nugget of something fun for each season. And so I really enjoy kind of mixing those into my gameplay as well. So for me, Welcome to is number 86. Number 85, MicroMacro. Have you solved the cover? Never have I played Where's Waldo and thought, this would be so much better if it was in black and white. So I'm not really sure why MicroMacro works so well, but I can tell you it does. And it works so well in my family. My son loves this game. We've used this game for all those rainy afternoons, and we'll play 4 or 5 scenarios in a row. We've used this game in the evenings when it's like almost bedtime. He's already taken his bath and brushed his teeth, and we have a couple minutes, and we will sit down and play one scenario of this because they play in 5, maybe 10 minutes, some of the younger, easier ones. And that's really perfect. It's such a sweet spot for me. Is a game that can play quickly, has very little components to get to the table, and is so engaging. There's definitely those moments where you're all sitting there just searching and searching and searching and can't figure out what happened. And then you make a little leap in logic, or you just look a little to the left and you find something, but something just like reignites that hunt. And it really is that arc, that kind of spike of excitement that keeps this game coming back to the table. It's almost like a drug. You just want to keep going and keep going until you solve the crime. So MicroMacro has gotten a ton of table time in my family, and it's definitely one that there's 3 different ones at this point, and I can't wait to keep exploring more as they keep coming out. So my number 85 is MicroMacro.
Have you solved it yet? Because we're moving on to my number 84, Wonderland's War.
Wonderland's War is one of those games that I feel like I shouldn't like. I really don't like area control. I really don't like people taking my stuff from me. I don't like games that I feel like go on a little bit too long. But all of those things don't matter in this package to me. I really enjoy Wonderland's War. I enjoy the push your luck aspect, which is kind of touches on the Quacksequedlinburg or scratches that itch a little bit, but not quite, because you have this player board that it's going to play into, and sometimes you want to get the bad pieces, but there's also character development as you're getting allies. So it's one of those that takes things that I'm familiar with or aspects of other games that I either like or don't like, but somehow when those come together, it's just a lot of fun. I really enjoy the phases of this game. I enjoy the tea party where you're going around and you're trying to decide how far to go to get what you want, but you don't want to pass a certain point because you don't want to refill that tea party and give everybody else all those juicy options. So you're having to really kind of wrestle with yourself in that phase. And then you go into the resolution phase of the area control, in which you're trying to, again, do this area control and pulling from your bag and hoping you don't bust. Those 2 phases work really, really well together. And I think it's that marriage of the 2 phases that makes all these mechanisms that I don't typically like work really well in this game. So for that, my number 84 is Wonderland's War.
Number 83, Escape. If you know, you know.
Now, I mentioned earlier that RushMD is one of my go-to recommendations to start for real time, but Escape is as well, in a different way. So whereas RushMD, you really are trying to manage your multitasking and all these different little micro games, Escape just gives you 15 minutes in order to get a task done. And so because you just have this one block and chunk of time, it doesn't feel as tense, but it's more about that time management. There are a couple different points in that 15 minutes where you have to race back to a certain tile or to a certain block, and that always brings a lot of energy to it and kind of revives it, but it also kind of gives you that moment to take a breath, reset, where are we on the board, what are we doing, what needs to happen, and then you hear that gong and you're back out again. And I really like that aspect of it. So it's still not time management, it's still real time, but it's a different kind of real time because you have the whole chunk. Now, there is a zombie version of this, Escape Zombie City, and that's the picture that you're going to be seeing right here because that is my preferred of the 2, but also Escape Curse of the Temple is just as good. Very, very, very similar gameplay. I just prefer zombies. So for me, and my number 83 is Escape.
Number 82, Marvel United. And more Marvel United. And more Marvel United. All the Marvel United.
I love Marvel United because I think it does a great job with the cooperation, or really collaboration, in this game. So each turn, every card that you play, you get to use it for its action or its symbols on the bottom, and you also get to use the card that was played before you as well. And so I think that on your turn that this leads to good discussion. Sometimes it's not about what you can do. Over here is a problem. I can't reach over here this turn, but you're next and you can. What do you need in order to be effective over there? You need a movement? I'll play a movement card for you. You need a special hero action? I can play that. Or I can't play that. How can we make it work? So it's a puzzle that you're working together on, and it has a good turn overlap. My turn directly affects your turn. And because of that, we have to talk and get along and collaborate in order to be successful. I think it's a very simple gameplay. It's a fantastic family weight game with enough modularity that it keeps it fresh. Each of the bad guys are familiar enough to where your head isn't in the rule book the whole time, but different enough to where it's interesting and engaging. And you can play your favorite superhero, and it's all modular and can be mixed together. And because of that, it's just so fun and so unique and such a positive experience to bring this game to the table. So for that, my number 82 is Marvel United.
And number 81, Jamaica.
Now to me, Jamaica is pretty close to a perfect racing game. And I think that's because it does a lot without doing too much or being too much of one thing. So for example, it has a lot of luck in it, right? You're rolling dice and resolving your turn based on that die roll. But you kind of have some mitigation as well in deciding which one goes first and which one goes second. You also are going to have those turns where you feel they are extremely good or extremely bad. But because you're resolving rolls and actions so frequently, not just on your turn, but on everyone's turn, you're doing something and moving forward, it doesn't feel as bad when you have that one-off bad turn or you have that one-off good turn. So you have enough control over what you're doing and decisions that come from the dice roll instead of just getting hounded over and over and over again by bad die roll, bad die roll, bad die roll. So I really like that. There's also enough fighting that has that player interaction as you not only race to the end, but race to certain treasure spots that it keeps you actively engaged with the other players without feeling like the whole game is just this sludge and this crawl to the end. So it's quick, it's snappy, it has actively engaged your entire turn, everyone else's turn, and it just feels like a really great race all the way to the port. And because of that, because it's not too much of one thing, it's not all sunshine and roses, but it's not all doom and gloom, it's not all just luck. It's a great racing game, and my number 81, Jamaica. And there you have numbers 81 through 90 of my top 100 games of all time. Have you played any of these? Are there ones that these have replaced of other games for you? Let me know in the comments down below. And like I said, some of these are my most recommended games. And I talked a little bit about that as we went through. So let me know. What have you played? What do you like? What do you not like? And we'll see you next week.